Hello, everybody. It's episode 7 of our podcast, Head First. I'm Andy from the band Pilots Are Blue, and this is Robina. And we talk about all things kind of music, but also kind of about mental health and personal kind of experiences about life space interface. Why we're here and what we're doing.
A line from a Beastie Boys tune.
Which one?
What you just quoted.
Is it life space interface? Possibly. I got that. I have nicked that from someone. I can't remember who.
Sounds familiar.
Not sure it was them. Anyway.
But yeah, that's what it's all about. And this week we are talking about our favourite times at gigs and how gigs can influence our well-being and what exactly it brings to our lives.
So, shall I ask the first question?
Sure.
So, okay. So, what was your first gig you attended ever?
First gig was Huey Lewis and the News at the Hammersmith a long time ago.
Mid-80s, was it? Around his peak?
Yeah, mid to late. I think I was around 14, going on 15.
Where was that then? Which gig?
I think it was Hammersmith Odeon.
Oh.
So that was quite. We went to a couple of gigs there. I think we went to a Hue and Cry gig shortly after.
Yeah. Looking out for Linda.
Who took us there. She was really into that sort of that vibe. It was all a bit of a new scene for me. I think I was still sort of just getting into music in general, I started buying stuff like Howard Jones,
High Wycombe.
Yeah,
Howard Jones, High Wycombe boy. My sister used to follow me around the local pubs in the year up until he got famous. Yeah, he was playing like to rammed crowds, and then he suddenly kind of made it.
He took off his mantle chains.
Yeah, and the guy dead. I think his mime interpreter. Yeah, he was a Wycombe guy as well, and I think
he was like the Bez of the old days, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think recently I heard that he does something to do with Wycombe's art centre. We've got like a fairly big art centre.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been, but apparently it's good. And here, I think he helps. I think he founded it actually and stuff. But
that's great.
So do you think that kind of seeing like Huey Lewis in the News? Do you think that kind of did a light bulb go off, thinking I want to be on stage and I want to sing to adoring crowds?
Not at all. Not at that point. I mean, I was still very shy. I had friends who were trying to get me to go to Chippendale shows and stuff like that, and I hated it. I just hated being around people.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing. Your first gig, isn't it? Kind of like you've never been to something like that before, and suddenly there's like all these people, and they're all, depending on who you're seeing, there's kind of a various degrees of frenziedness towards the artist you're seeing.
It's quite a massive adjustment, isn't it? To sort of be a cozy little time.
Kind of like, I mean, just the kind of like exiting a gig. I remember like exiting a gig is like, you got, depending where it is, you've got a few thousand people just heading for the exit door straight away, and you kind of like this with people around you, just kind of like they're just basically just carrying you out the whichever way. You've got no control, whichever way they want to exit.
Because I suppose I never really got it either. It's kind of, we have to go into these crowds to do this thing, otherwise we don't get to see who we want.
Yeah, I mean, it's good though. I always thought it was good.
But obviously, it's like opera or just sat down.
It's a good kind of celebratory thing if it's kind of like, you're all there for a shared passion.
Of course, it's like a unified field.
Exactly. And you feel like
euphoric.
First gig I went to was Madness in December 1980. Shows how old I am. At the Hammersmith Odeon as well.
Oh, okay.
And it was a matinee performance because they were doing matinee performances to under 16s. Okay. And my cousin Gavin, who kind of got me into Madness and stuff, he came along, and my sister came along and chaperoned us. I think my dad drove us, and we were upstairs, and I just remember looking down at the crowd and just thinking, my God, it's just like a sea of people. And they had like a magician as a warm up guy. I don't remember much about the gig, to be honest with you. But I remember they just came on and bang, the place just kind of erupted. I could, looking down at the crowd from the balcony, they were just like absolutely going mental. It was like, I don't know. I think it was quite lucky that I was upstairs in a sort of comfy seat for my first gig. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have been able to handle the rough and tumble of it. Kind of like without knowing the rules and regulations of gig, kind of.
Yeah, and again, if you're not tanked up on a few pints before you go in or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Those days anyway. Were you sort of fairly tame at that point?
Fairly what?
Fairly tame with it, going out and not drinking before going to a gig.
Well, I was only 11.
Oh, did you say you were 11?
Yeah, 1980. I was only 11, so no, it didn't. That wasn't on. That wasn't on the. That came later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
But so for a kid, that must have been so special.
It was kind of like, yeah. I mean, it was at Christmas as well. I remember it was at Christmas. So I had that. When you're a kid, you have the magic of Christmas a bit as well, and it was. Yeah. I was 38 in 2007. That's how depressing.
Everyone's younger than us.
Yeah, it's.
But yeah, anyway, it's just nice discovering new artists, isn't it? Have you? So you went to see Little Barry recently, didn't you?
Little Barry, yeah, he was good actually. It's a bit. I tend to go to gigs on my own these days, just because I just want to do. The older I get, the more kind of independent and free spirit. So I just want to be able to do what I want when I want. So if I want to go up to London early and just zoom around, I'll do that. Yeah, I went up and.
You don't really bother when you're on your own.
No, you just got to be a bit streetwise, haven't you? You just don't look at anybody in the eye and cross the road if it's looking a bit wary on your side. But yeah, it's got luckily. I mean, the gig venue is literally 200 stations. So.
Sorry, you can say that again.
Oh, the gig venues was literally about 200 yards across the road from the train station. So it was.
Handy, yeah.
That was good, and it's a good little gig venue. It's kind of like sweaty box kind of thing. It was quite probably holds, I don't know, thousands, maybe 1,500. It was pretty. I didn't know how popular he was, to be honest with you. So I didn't know how many people would be there, but it's pretty rammed. And they had that support band Kitty Live, who are awesome. So check those out. Check those out, watchers. Kitty Live, touring in June.
Yeah,
they were great. Yeah, they were great. It's like her brother on bass and her husband on drums. I think her husband's in the Mystery Jets. If you've ever heard of them, it was good. It was good. It's kind of like, it can feel a bit strange if you're on your own because you just purely because you just get a bit kind of everybody's in groups and everybody's. But I don't really mind it. I'll grab an expensive water for £3.
Make it last. Right?
Yeah. It's quite funny actually because I took my earplugs because of like the whole tinnitus situation, and I stood kind of at the back near the bar, and she was playing. It was fine, and then some DJ in between Kitty Live and Little Barry who was playing just kind of 60s, 70s Northern Soul, that kind of the loud, trebly, almost distorted stuff, and it was like piercing. So, but by that point I was stood near the entrance, and the amount of people that came in, sort of quite young people as well. The first thing they did was take their earplugs out of their pocket and pop them in. So yeah, big awareness out there. But he was great. I mean, he was great, Little Barry. He's just like. He's not really kind of a talker in between songs and that. But he's just effortlessly cool, and just on the guitar, he's amazing. So he's amazing on guitar. He's got this really tall kind of Elvis haircutted bass player with sideburns, and on drums he's got a guy bit of an older guy who's like a proper cool jazz drummer. And they were just amazing. Just that kind of like I think I said to you, he recorded the Better Call Saul theme tune. So it's all that kind of like twangy vibro arm kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, he's a phenomenal player.
But he was really good. So that was my last gig I went to, and so I find because gigs are quite expensive these days. I mean, I think that was 25 quid. Bearing in mind he's
not bad,
fairly unknown. He's not even kind of mid-range, I would say.
Yeah, he would be more well known, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Kitty Liv. I wouldn't mind going to see her in June. Because her gigs are only like her London gigs are only like £18, I think.
Cool. Yeah.
But anywhere like the Roundhouse even's like £40 upwards.
Yeah, you just don't know where. So he supported Primal Scream as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he toured. He was like a touring guitarist. He's from Nottingham, up that way originally, and he came down to London turn of the century, and I think he worked in Denmark Street in one of the guitar shops there, and Andrew Innes from Primal Scream kept popping in to get guitar stuff, and they got friendly, and I think he lived near Bobby Gillespie as well. I think he said one of the interviews he was on his way to work. Bobby Gillespie were like pushing his kid to school or walking his kid to school or something like that. But he knew them anyway, and then he kind of he joined as like a touring guitarist. I'm not sure if he played on any stuff. He's done quite a lot of sessions with people. He was the touring guitar. He's the touring guitarist for the. He's just come off a world tour with them. And Johnny Marr recommended, because Johnny Marr used to play for them.
Right.
Matt Johnson approached Johnny Marr, said, I need a guitarist, and he recommended Barry Cadigan, I think he's called. Little Barry. And so yeah, and he's done stuff with quite a few different people. He's been guitarist for Liam Gallagher and stuff like that. And so I thought he might be thought he might be a guitarist in Oasis this year when they reform, like the. But I don't think. I think it's Bonehead's going to be doing it. But yeah, so it was very good, very good. And I just like going up to London.
Yeah.
And the whole kind of buzz of that and coming back. So if you ever had, look at my questions, what's been your worst gig experience, would you say?
I don't think I've really had any. Can't say even some really dodgy stuff that I'd seen at festivals. You know, you just grin and bear it, don't you? I got lost in Glastonbury one year for 5 hours. I just couldn't find anybody. Days when I didn't have a mobile phone.
Yeah.
I did see a couple of really good bands. I saw Far Side, saw Moby. I just got.
Oh, that's when I went.
2000.
2000. That's when I went.
Yeah, David Bowie. Yeah.
David Bowie. Yeah. I saw Moby. Yeah, I saw Moby.
I found my friends at that point, but I think I just ended up going to some random tents and watching some really dodgy.
I got lost as well at the same festival. I got lost in. But I mean, talking about worst gig experiences, that probably wasn't the worst, but it was kind of like, I think that was the last year that they had the old fence and people just, scallies were just getting over it. And I remember it was absolutely rammed that year, Glastonbury. And I remember I was watching the Dandy Warhols on my own because I used to just wander off with my friends, drunk, with an Aberdeen Angus burger. I kind of lived on those all weekend. And I remember I was just there with some chips watching Dandy Warhols, and this bloke he came and he just shouted something at me. He's walking along trying to he just shouted something. I can't remember what it was, where it was like, can I have a chip or get out the way? But in a more aggressive, sweary kind of manner. And I just get just people like that, That's what I don't really like about gigs much.
Yeah.
I always seem to be around the drunks who just causing. I went to Morrissey in Aylesbury a few years ago, and even then there was just the only aggravated drunk in the whole place suddenly was next to me, and it's like, why,
Yeah, I've had a couple of hairy experiences in clubs, I'd say, more so than watching
Oh
bands.
yeah.
Definitely, there was a guy who pulled out a knife once on a friend I was with and stuff like that. And, everyone's just
Yeah.
high on their individual drugs and whatever else they took, you know what I mean? And you're just going there for a peaceful time and other people just ruin the experience, don't they? I'd probably say that might have been the worst one then.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It was
just.
a gig. It was
I mean, that's kind of like that's the thing. You put people trap them in a building, give them places to buy booze, and also they probably had some drugs. And that it can be a bit of a
I mean, it's
a melting pot.
strange, isn't it? Because obviously a lot of those years were around very nice people who obviously did, don't even the DJs would do drugs, wouldn't they? So it sort of comes with the territory. But also there was perfectly nice gigs. I remember everyone's just been polite, you go from room to room,
Yeah, I mean, I remember.
different flavors.
I remember the last festival I went to.
But it just doesn't feel that anymore. I don't know about you if you noticed that.
Well, I remember Reading Festival seemed. I remember one year I went, and again I was just walking in to the gates on a Saturday into the actual festival, and some young scally teenagers just started. Can't remember what they said, but they just started trying to front me out. And it's like, what are you talking about? I remember conversely though, in 2007, last festival I went to, the V Festival, and probably because it was the northern one up at Stafford, I think it was. I was there, and it just pissed down all weekend, and I got separated from my friends. I went and saw the Happy Mondays, and there was these two people next to me, might have been a couple, and they were just really friendly and just offered me free drugs. It was like sort of really friendly and just kind of like it's like offering me like a polo mint. Do you want to what were these? It's like no kind of monetary incentive or anything. It's just kind of like it was great.
McDonald's for breakfast.
Yeah, it's that kind of. But there's been. I remember, then it was my fault. I remember I got really drunk at a Duran Duran gig in 2003, 2004. I remember I was grumpy. I was drunk and grumpy for some reason. And I remember walking. It was at Wembley Arena, walking in the outside of the inside, the outside of the inside in Wembley Arena where all the stalls are and everything. I remember seeing this bloke and his mate and their two girlfriends, and this bloke was being quite loud and obnoxious, and I thought, what a twat. Sure enough, he stood in front of me at the gig, and I remember I had a bottle of something, and I just put it against me like that, so the kind of neck of it would go into him if he stood back, and he did a few times, and in the end, it came to head when my girlfriend and her friend at the time went to the bar to get some drinks, I think, and when they were there, his mate, I think he pushed his mate, or his mate, they were drunk, danced or just moved and danced and knocked me flying a bit, and I just pushed him back. And then the other guy just came up to me and goes, "You've been giving us hassle all night." And he goes, "I will kill you. I will kill you." Spitting all over my face. He was so close.
Oh.
And I can't remember what I said. I said something a bit antagonistic to him, like, "Hey, mate, that's murder." Or I might have said something about his girlfriend, derogatory.
That would do it then.
And he kind of like, it was that moment. And I suddenly had the moment think, he's probably going to like kick the shit out of me. So I just moved away. Quite rather coolly, I have to say. I just kind of looked at him. I just walked away with my eyes fixed on his.
Yeah, got to take that power back, haven't you?
It was kind of like, it was looking. It was 6 or 1 after I was younger. He seemed quite pissed and obnoxious. He was drunk and grumpy. Put those two people together, it's not going to end well.
Mm-hmm. Someone actually poured a pint down my back, and I couldn't work out whether it was on purpose.
Oh, really?
I went just mad because I just couldn't believe there was just a lot of aggression around, and obviously guys who just think they can do what they want. Because I remember on that same night, I think it was just hectic. The whole thing was just
this is the club night where the knife had been pulled.
Yeah, another club night. Yeah, and then the guy just basically put his hands on my breast, like to cup them, and I just literally just did this ninja move, backs him off, and he just went flying,
Oh, nice.
flying on the floor. And then obviously then that security came, and it was just like, well, no one touches me, not in that way. And I just had beer spill all over me as well. Like, these guys need to go.
Yeah.
They did in the end. But it just ruins the whole bloody experience, doesn't it? You just want to dance, have fun, and not be hassled because you're just really getting into the music. You just don't know who's looking at you in that way, or whatever way they think they want to come over and.
Yeah. I mean, I always felt, because I'm quite tall, I always was very conspicuous about my height at gigs.
I was on heels, so I was also fairly tall.
Yeah, I just thought like I was like you get some, especially at festivals, where people throw in stuff. I thought, my head's a target. If they want to have a go.
They can try. Yeah, so, I'm glad I've not had those experiences for a very long time. So obviously, don't hang out in those kinds of venues anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
but I would like to. I do sometimes really crave just a really nice, chilled rooftop.
What's the kind of favorite gig venues you've been to then?
Yeah, I'd say Brixton Academy. I really like it in there.
Yeah.
Saw Erika Badu there one year. So kind of, progressively went from those early gigs to kind of all the chilled out stuff, I guess. Well, did the sort of dance phase, went to a lot of raves. And then after that, I think I'd started appreciating just slow down and watch artists and just hang out.
I think as I got older, I've kind of like, I started at gigs down the front, giving it some. And as I got older, I've slowly gone further back in the crowd until I'm kind of like stood at the bar, basically.
Yeah, you're just part of it.
The young man's going down the front these days.
Yeah, Erika, and we saw Lee Scratch Perry one year. Enjoyed that. I think that was at the Ocean. That was a really cool venue in London.
Oh yeah, Ladbroke Grove around that way.
Yeah, that's it. And then Electric Ballroom. I used to love that place. Camden, I believe that's still going. Yeah, gigs like that. What about you, venues wise?
Yeah, I mean, Brixton Academy is kind of like one of my earliest kind of gig venues, I suppose. So my third gig there, sort of cult there. I went to the O2, saw Prince.
Oh wow!
When he was doing like 20 nights at the O2, something like that. I don't really remember much about it. That was in my drinking days. But I just remember it was like we were up high up the side, and it was luckily he was stage was in the middle of the venue, so it wasn't too bad. But I remember it just really high up. I remember the worst one was like me and my brother saw U2 at about 2001. We went 2 nights in a row, and we were right at the back of the venue, and it was just like the band were playing in another room somewhere, another gig venue. It was just like you couldn't really hear it. It was muffled and stuff like that. Those big venues are kind of. I remember I was thinking about it recently because it's like it was 40 years last November. I saw U2 at Wembley Arena with my brother, had a spare ticket, and we were actually sat on the floor. And I remember that was amazing. And it was in the days where if you bought a T-shirt from the T-shirt store, it's not like now where they just give you a T-shirt. It was probably in some wrapping, and it had like a cardboard square keeping it together. And I remember before U2 came on, after the support band had been on, I just remember people just skimming, just frisbeeing these bits of cardboard all around Wembley Arena, like skimming on the top of the crowd. Just like hundreds and hundreds of them. It was like absolutely crazy. But those big venues, they're kind of okay, but a bit just a bit too cavernous. I like the kind
overrated.
Yeah, I like the smaller venues, like sort of academy venues and like the garage. Those kind of sweaty little hose them down at the end of the night.
Yeah. The Vaults, we went to the Vaults a couple of times in London. That was
Town and Country Club, or whatever it's called now.
Oh yeah, was that in
Kentish Town?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called now. I've been to loads of gigs there. When I was about 20, 21, me and my mates used to go there virtually every weekend. I remember one week, just when the Charlatans first were kind of hitting the scene with, I think The Only One I Know had just been released, and we went up there on a Sunday night. No tickets. We used to just find a tout, and we were just getting this tout was just we were just about to part money with this tout, and this guy came over. Turns out he's a manager of the Charlatans. He goes, don't give him your money, guys. I'll put you on the guest list. And then the tout starts like having a massive go at the manager, saying you're a shit, and all started kicking off. And they put us on the guest list, and we just got in free. That was great.
Yeah, not so much for him.
And it was. I remember seeing, and ironically, about 10 years later, I took my kind of time. We went, and a few of us went and saw Doves play at Town and Country Club, and ironically, we got a tout ticket. Me and my girlfriend got tout tickets. I think £40 each we paid. And I remember I accidentally gave the tout 70 quid, and he was counting it out, and he thought we were trying to do them, and he virtually started fronting me out. Anyway, so we got our tout tickets, and then we were queuing up around the block to get in, and then it was can't remember what her name is. It was one of these young, trendy women DJs from Radio 1. She was going along the crowd, and it just happened to be they were doing a show on tout tickets. You know, or would you buy a tout ticket? And I said, well, actually, I've just bought 2 tout tickets, and yeah, that was a bit weird. But yeah, that was a good gig, and
yeah, you were well into Doves, weren't you? I think when I first met you, it just
yeah, really. I'm not massively keen on them now, but they were. My mate got me.
Really? Well, that is a surprise.
Yeah, my mate Austin, he was really into them to begin with, like really early on. He kept banging on about them and kept saying, you want to get into this band, listen to them, and
they lost their shine for you of them.
Yeah, well, I heard them on the radio in about 2000 on the evening session. I thought, oh, that's a really good. It's a song called Catch the Sun. I thought, that sounds amazing. And then one Woolworths when Woolworths existed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and put it on when I got home, and it was like amazing. Yeah, we followed them, and then we went and saw them quite a lot. And yeah, Town and Country Club was good. You know, Brixton and where's the other? Just those kind of small to medium sized venues. I went to the Clapham Grand once.
Oh, where did you go and see Little Barry again?
Isn't it the Highbury Garage? Islington Highbury Garage.
Not been there.
Yeah, Clapham Grand once. I don't really remember much about it though. I wasn't drinking. I was driving.
What was that? Do you remember that club? There was a cool place opposite the one that we played at in Brick Lane. I just don't remember the name now.
Yeah.
Of
course, there was the Astoria back in the day when that was open. That was a good little venue. Saw quite a few gigs there. Yeah, so yeah, I mean it's quite.
I was just thinking about all these bands though, you know, coming out at the same time, like Inspiral Carpet, Charlatans, Blur, all that similar sound. Obviously,
I mean, I saw the house. I was really into a band called the House of Love, and I saw them at the place called the Kilburn National. I'm not sure if it's still there. Me and my friends actually saw the Charlatans there as well a few months after the Town and Country Club. It was a great venue. It's just from what I remember, it's just a big. I think that's all basically at weekends. There's a lot of Irish. Kilburn National, you know, there's a lot of Irish community. I think.
Right, yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. Like the bands attract a certain type of crowd, don't they? So, which bands were kind of more, you know, memorable in terms of having that chilled audience as opposed to people throwing cardboard everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I much prefer the smaller, intimate kind of venues where people aren't like a, you know, little dot to you. But so I'm just looking at ups and downs of performing live. Well, I mean, one of the when I first started playing, you know, it was the big up was like we're playing a gig. It's that adrenaline rush, and then the downer is you turn up and there's, you know, a couple of your mates might have turned up, or it might usually on like a 3-band bill or something like that, and the place is packed. And then the first band finish, and then all the crowd go with them because they brought the crowd with them, and you're playing to like virtually no one. But I mean, it's just ups and downs. Like so many ups and downs we've had. Just
well, doing a gig at midnight when it wasn't actually midnight.
that gig didn't actually happen.
Years and it wasn't.
That didn't actually happen. Yeah,
that was complete
waste of
catastrophe. But you know, I don't think we've had terrible times. But
I don't think so.
I think what I'd like to sort of focus now on, you know, when you've got people saying, "I'd love to see you perform," it fills you with a tiny bit of dread. I don't know about you. It for me, it suddenly just makes me think about all those things we've discussed before. And with our imposter syndrome and all the other stuff, it's kind of like, is it changing as we get older? I don't know. And is it affecting how we perform? I need to figure it out. Maybe I'm just thinking too much anyway, and then we're just not meant to be doing. Yeah. There's so many of these overthinking kind of.
I mean, I always.
Go down.
I think I mentioned before. You know, I don't really like attention on me at all.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's hard when you're obviously out there trying to perform.
Yeah, exactly, and especially when it's just like us, just two of you. But I remember, like, you know, from the age of, I probably did my first gig at 19. From the age of 19 to 39, I'd done a whole load of gigs, about 100 gigs, none of them sober. You know, and yeah, I remember we played band I was in. About 1992, we got a gig at the Windsor Old Trout.
Oh, yeah.
Another great little venue, sadly not there anymore. And it's like a Wednesday night.
Not there anymore?
No, it's a block of flats or something now, you know.
Really?
Or an eatery, a posh eatery.
God, I've just been hiding under a rock, I think.
And we played there. It's like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was like a band. I remember we had to be there for about 5 to sound check.
Pros again, sorry, what band?
Right, sorry. We had to be there for about 5 o'clock to sound check. There's about 5 bands on. And so we sound checked for like 10 minutes, you know. And then we're on to about 9, half 9. So I remember it was like a spring day, sunny spring day. So we went to the pub next door. I can't remember what was that called, the pub next door. I can't remember. Anyway, we just basically got drunk. I'd had a lift off a mate, so we got drunk. And I remember.
You can't remember because you were drunk.
It was, yeah. I mean, I remember walking towards the stage to start playing the gig. I vaguely remember being on stage briefly, and that was it. Just played in blackout, basically. Just kind of, yeah. It was kind of one of those.
Amazing, you put away 100 gigs.
Yeah, well, you know, like the energy of youth.
Yeah.
And some of those were with us as well, you know, our gigs.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like the ups and downs. Kind of, there's not been massive ups and downs really. Just kind of, someone threw a fag packet at me, hit me on the head once. That kind of stuff.
And then the odd thing where people are just going, "Can you speed it up a bit? It's going a bit jazzy." You know?
Yeah. Well, I remember another gig we did in '92. We played at the local. It was called a wine bar. It was just a pub, really, on a Sun. Booked paid for that an hour and a half, something like that. And we knew we were in trouble because we got there. We were kind of like an indie shoegaze band, and we're up there, and it's like the local rugby club were up there getting pissed, and we knew we were in trouble because you could tell because they'd taken over the jukebox and they were playing like Genesis and Queen and Bruce Springsteen, that kind of stuff. Anyway, we went on, and I remember when the first song finished, all you could hear was "fuck off, you shit, fuck off," you know, just massive abuse, just like "fuck off, guy."
I mean, so that's not, you know.
We're booked to play for an hour. Well, we're booked to play for an hour and a half thing, and after about 20 minutes, the barman, the manager, goes, "Make this the last one, lads," and stuff. So. Yeah, I think we got the gig because they wanted they put on gigs there. I think we got the gig because they wanted a demo tape, and I remember giving them a demo tape of some obscure songs by the band Ride.
Oh yeah.
And I remember giving them a tape, a couple of those songs, and as I, said it was our demo tape. I think that's how we got the gig. So
Oh, I love those days. We did
Deception.
we saw bands and you got the little CDs and T-shirt, merch and whatever. It was so cute.
I mean, technical difficulties. I don't think I've ever had any technical difficulties really on stage. Broken strings, that kind of thing. It's been a bit choppy, really. I mean, back in sort of 1990, the band I was in, Stevie Dunican and the Tasteless Jumpers, as we were called. Mm-hmm. Our trademark used to be, wherever we played, we used to turn up with a smoke machine and a strobe light. Just literally go berserk on the smoke machine. And I remember we went on, and I think we had a bet about who was going to make the first mistake. And I had to start the first song, and I just couldn't see anything whatsoever. And so I just played. I couldn't even see my guitar, so I played completely the wrong note. So evolution of music. How gigs have changed over the years, from intimate venues to large festivals. Discuss how technology and social media have influenced live performance and artist visibility. There you go. So, I mean, for me, kind of like gigs generally have changed, rightly or wrongly, from a kind of, especially festivals, from like a safety point of view. Like, I mean, when I first went to Reading Festival, it's just like you're in there and it's just like however many thousands of you, there's no barriers or anything like that. Not like a golden ticket barrier at the front where you're in that bit. I remember Glastonbury was like that. You just rolled up to whichever stage you're at and just pushed your way to the front. There was no.
Yeah.
And now it seems a bit more. I haven't really been to any gigs where it's been like that, where it's not been like that. But it sort of looks like it takes away from the experience. I did see Robbie Williams in 2003. Actually, I think I was in the inner circle. Well, I can't remember what they call it. The front bit, which is all cordoned off. That's a Robbie Williams gig. It's not like a mosh pit or anything like that. So
there's a lot of things that get cancelled, isn't it? As well, due to all these technical things. But God, I remember, I can't remember what year it was, but I wanted to see Jane's Addiction so bad. I thought, wow, they're here in Reading. That just blew my mind. And then they just got cancelled. The whole gig.
Was that Rivermead? Was that?
Yeah. Those grounds. So.
Yeah. I saw Suede at Rivermead actually in '99. That was quite a good gig.
Dinosaur Jr. I always wanted to see them, and people like REM, but all these bands I never, had the privilege to go and see in the end.
I remember my friend had a ticket for me to go and see REM at Wembley Arena on the Monster Tour, and Radiohead was supporting. But I think Bill Berry, the drummer out of Radiohead, I think that's when he had his brain hemorrhage, and it was cancelled. I think what a gig that would have been, Radiohead and REM.
So what? Sorry.
Social media and technology, how that's influenced live performance and artist visibility. Well, I mean, it's obvious, really, isn't it? I remember 20 years ago, I went to a gig, and 30 years ago, and people used to come around with a clipboard. It's like get your name and address for a mailing list, that kind of stuff. And in the post, every now and again, you get a gig flyer. Finding gigs from name bands as well. You listen to
we just find out
to the evening show on Radio 1, or got a fanzine, or the Enemy Melody Maker, all that kind of stuff. You had to kind of like put in the effort, basically. You'd have these pop-ups.
And I guess they marketed, the flyers and canvases. They must have worked their butts off. And then it was like,
absolutely, yeah. But now it's kind of like, it's standard, isn't it, to have like I was just looking at Wolf Alice. Wolf Alice are just coming back now, and I follow them on Instagram, and they just started putting mysterious snippets of new singles and photos and little videos of themselves, and it's that kind of like being released next week, something special to mark the release, and it's all that kind of
Well, yeah. So that's it. Just feels there's no attention span anymore whatsoever. You've got to play that game, otherwise, you'll just be just a nobody.
And it is, and even just smaller gigs, now. It's kind of like gigs we do, up in London. It's kind of like, have you got a link to your social media so we can check you out? That gig we did at Christmas in Camden. Whether it was true or not, that seems a bit odd knowing what we now know once we were there. But they wanted, they wanted links to our stuff, and which would then go, which the management would then review and give us the thumbs up or thumbs down. It's like,
So obviously, and then there was the Facebook and there's a lot of stuff
SoundCloud.
You have to face up, isn't it? It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's like just a flyer everywhere, like local gigs. It would be like, used to flyer in the, like the local paper had a music page, so which had a gig guide, so you make sure your gig was in there. You try and get an interview in the local rag and a picture. Where you rehearsed, you'd put adverts up. All the local music shops, guitar shops, and that, you'd go in, kind of put a flyer up, and and it was all
the best.
Phones first sort of came out, and I got my first mobile phone. About year 1999 or 2000, where you didn't really have, didn't have photos and all that kind of stuff. I used to have this, I'd put a gig information in and just send it to everybody in my phone. I think I had to, in the early days, really early days, you couldn't like select all. You had to like do one person at a time. It was like crazy, And,
you had so much more patience as well.
You really had to kind of like put the work in, and when you take a bunch of flyers out with you, and if you're out and about on Saturday, at the pub or everything, you bump into people playing a gig next Saturday, come and see us, and give them a flyer and give them a bunch of flyers to give to their friends or whatever. And it's all completely different ball game.
The closest we got to sort of that social media thing was when we won the BBC
Radio
Box, BBC
Radio 1. June 2011. BBC Berkshire.
What were you doing in that year?
BBC Berkshire's demo of the week, weren't we?
Yeah. And so
it was us. It was like a rapper from.
Sorry, of little 2-minute burst of fame, wasn't it? Or whatever, on the radio play.
The problem is now, I think we've said this before as well. It's like it's just the way, because of the internet, everything like that. It's very easy for people to make music these days.
Yeah,
very people, and it's quite good in one way because it gives everybody a chance to be creative, but also means that the internet is actually saturated with music, not just music. Photographs,
right?
Everything, podcasts.
Going back to the social media aspect, we just didn't even do any of that, really, did we? We just kind of just bumbled about. Still, obviously,
no, I know nothing. I knew nothing about Instagram. I don't even know Instagram was around at that time.
Instagram then at all. We had a bit of Facebook. I think that just went by the wayside. We just weren't posting.
Yeah.
And now it's like that's all you have. You can't get away from it. So how are people going to know what you do? Unless, I suppose, I've got that big. I do have a bit of elephant in the room stuff where I just think, wow, that is glaring at you. That tune's not finished. When is it ever going to get done? You've got like 2 tunes out there. So there is that aspect. I do sometimes have the anxiety around that, but I don't worry about it, if you know what I mean. That can easily just go because you're on to the next thing in life, aren't you? We ain't got the time to worry about that stuff.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, remember in my early days, it's kind of like so naive. I was in a covers band, for God's sake, and I wanted to be famous, but I wanted to be a signed musician, but I was in a covers band, I wasn't even in an originals band until later. It was just, but I think that kind of attitude got us added to the adventure. I remember we did 3 gigs in 1 week. You did a gig on the Friday. We did a Chin of Friends of the Earth on the Friday. the Equity and Law Social Club, which is where I worked on the Wednesday, and then we did the place called the Morning Star around here, Heroes and Zeros it was called, on the Friday. And we called it the Tank Top Tour because we were Stevie doing kind of Taste the Jumpers, and that even just 3 gigs in a week seemed like a little adventure, you know. And yeah, it was just great. Just you know.
Do you still see the people in that band?
I don't really see them. We kind of in kind of contact online like everybody else is. But it was a great time, you know. We could all barely play our instruments, but we thought we were great. A mate of mine, actually, Austin, he's sort of archiving a lot of that stuff, and he gave me some recordings from October 1990 when we played on the Tank Top Tour, actually, the Wednesday at Equity Social Club, and we were like, we were loud. I just thought I wanted to be the Edge out of U2, and you could hear it. I just like delay pedal on full. We didn't sound too bad, actually. Better than I thought it would be. It wasn't too cringy.
So who would you like to have dinner with? Going back to our question.
Just one person, dead or alive.
Yeah. Well, preferably alive, because then you can actually eat.
Alive. That's a good question.
Many. Just too many, isn't there?
It's difficult. I wouldn't want someone too loud. Someone.
Get word and edgeways while you're eating.
Probably like. I don't know. They're kind of like, if all 3 of them were still alive, the Beastie Boys would be great. Be a bit zany. I don't know really. I don't know. Maybe kind of like someone from an older band from 30 years ago that's still like Echo Belly. They're just kind of like they're still doing a tour, but somebody like that who's kind of like been and done it, and I would just like to have a chat with them about what it was like, you know, what it was like in the heyday Britpop, you know, and you know when it was great, you know, music was great in London. It was kind of like, I remember when I went and saw the Boo Radleys once at Shepherd's Bush Empire, another good little venue.
Yep.
And it was a peak of like Britpop. It was like, I think it was like April '95, spring London day. You know, it was all happening. You know, swinging London and everything. I remember, and I met a couple of mates at the gig outside. And I remember just waiting outside. There was the bass player out of Ride. He was there, and he was with one of the guys out of Swerve Driver. They're all on Creation. And there was a couple of other guys there. You all just kind of mingling. It just seemed like a real kind of like magical time for music, I suppose. Just kind of really accessible and exciting. And so I'd like to maybe have a dinner with someone who was around doing music fairly famously at that time, but hear them now and how they're older and can reflect on it and stuff like that. What about you?
You didn't go 3. It was a third person.
There's 3 people.
Oh, is that?
Okay, what did you say? What did you say? 3?
No, you said 3, didn't you? You said the 3 people, and then Echo Belly was the band. So, and then he stopped at Beastie Boys, and then there wasn't.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't think of any more.
Yeah, more than 3. So.
What about you?
Roger Waters, I think, would be interesting.
Yeah, political.
Down. There's a lot. Things would probably get quite political with him. I've just seen some of the stuff he's been putting out, and yeah, it just seems like it's really interesting. I'd like to know the journey of his life and times through these big band experiences, you know, like the Stones, and obviously who they hung out with, and
Israel and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, well, yes. He's
heavily into that, isn't he? That kind of stuff.
Huge Axe listener, isn't he? I found out that Rick Rubin, who looks so interesting, would be, Def Jam founder.
Founder of the Beast.
And
well, he put the Beastie Boys together, didn't he?
Yeah, because I've been really into a couple of bands. I mean, I don't, I'm not following a ton of bands that I know of in modern times, but people I really like Gossip. So when I heard, he actually produced their
album. In the Way of Control.
Beth Ditto, just love her voice. Just love that raw energy. It's like these are all artists that I could never be like. I just haven't got that confidence. And I got into this band called Amel and the Sniffers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
she's a lively lady.
She's incredible. People just have unashamed.
Yeah, I mean, someone like Alison Goldfrapp and
people
who are kind of like, she was a complete, obviously, forerunner of people like Florence and the Machine and for a kind of stage show and just a female kind of. I mean, I think she's as mad as a box of frogs as well. Alison Goldfrapp.
Okay. Yeah, and there's Roisin Murphy.
Oh yeah.
That's her.
Looks like Colin Greenwood out of Radiohead would be a good dinner guest. Actually, he's very charming and conversational and funny. So
good. And,
the tinnitus is always there. It's just I doubt he'll be watching what I blame Graham from the drummer from Stevie Doing the Contagious Drummers. I blame him because I mean we used to rehearse on a Sunday morning at 9 every week, 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning till 12. After a big night out, this is when we're 1920. Like the power and energy of youth is amazing. But I used to stand next to his drum kit, next to his cymbals, and I'm sure that didn't help my.
Me neither.
So I'll blame him.
I literally stood next to the speakers in clubs because I just loved music. I had to be there. Had to be the bass. Had to be near the bass. Anyway.
I remember just listening to music on headphones when I was younger. It had to be loud because the only way I could really kind of like get the. I remember there's a band called Hurricane Number One, and they had like a remix CD I got, and halfway through the remix of one of their songs, this real kind of looped energy kind of guitar part came in. I absolutely loved it, and I would just like replay that over and over at full massive volume with my headphones on. In my 20s, it didn't seem to affect me, but obviously I think as the years went on, it just kind of like I'm paying for it. Where's the cat? He must have been asleep on the tree. I'll go to like probably 1 gig a year, maybe 2. But it's because I'm a bit older. My energy kind of like and money especially. It's like I only really go and see people now that I really want to go and see. I don't really take a chance on a band.
Well, at least you don't get disappointed. I'd say you're actually getting.
It's like, I mean, I saw Warpaint in the Roundhouse 2-3 years ago, and purely because I was really into the single they had out at the time, and then
I think I saw them at Reading Festival once.
Yeah, and I think it was. I don't know if they mentioned it on the radio, but I just thought, I think they said they were on tour or something. So the single finished on the radio. I just went online, had a look. They're playing the Roundhouse the next night, 27 quid, I think it was. Boom, did it, and then just I'm really excited to go up there and saw them. And I always liked sort of Warpaint, their kind of stuff, layery, atmospheric kind of stuff. So they're talking about our earlier thing though. They were really, really good. But it was at the Roundhouse, and I was downstairs standing. I was at the edge of the crowd, which is where the kind of poles are when you're inside. And of course, I've got some guy in front of me, and Warpaint aren't a moshing band. They're just kind of like, you kind of listen to them, But I had a guy in front of me, and he was like all over the place with his arms, like going like this, and and he was like, the only place in the Roundhouse, the only person in the Roundhouse doing that, and he has to be stood in front of me.
It's like a wasp in summer.
So it's like, crazy.
Oh man.
But yeah, I get all the the emails and that about what's on where, but rarely do I, unless it was somebody I really, really, really want to go and see.
Yeah, I really want to see more cheaper. Actually, that gig, I can't remember where it was now.
Oh yeah, is that
DJ
Jazz Cafe they're doing or something?
I'm not sure.
Commitments. Really cool picture when you're on the screen now. You look really cool because there's the picture of there's the reflection of your monitor in your eyes. Looks like you've got really funky eyes going on.
Oh right, yeah.
You have to grab a still of those.
Not really. Look like some sort of strange cyber.
Yeah.
Borg. Bit freaky, to be honest. I see what you mean now.
Yeah, kind of sci-fi, slightly surreal sci-fi.
So, anything else you want to discuss musically?
I think that's it, really. Just kind of like gig experiences and.
Yeah, I think because you're just injecting
so
music into your life every day. It makes such a difference, I think, to your day. I mean, I really do try and get into any kind of break I have in the day. I'll be listening to music. I mean, obviously,
yeah. I mean, I think we were lucky growing up. We were the generation where there were so many gig venues open. I remember Slough had like an art centre, I think. Used to get bands playing there as well, sort of small to medium-sized bands. And, like all the other ones we mentioned, like the Old Trout and Astoria and
there's
lots of other little, just local ones as well, little Nag's Head in Wickham.
You just remind me of a couple of cool cafes in Windsor. There's a place called the Dome, I think, and that's not there anymore. Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Tufnell Park, not Tufnell Park Dome.
No, it's Windsor.
Windsor Art Centre, I know that. I do.
Yeah, I mean, one of my dreams was to actually set up a rehearsal studio and just get people in so I can hang out with people who do music and watch them. Even though I do not.
Well, you could just have a rehearsal place and with a coffee shop, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Trouble is, there's not many, rehearsal places aren't there.
Anything else? Any other nuggets of wisdom from Mr. Brewer tonight?
No, not really. Just kind of, especially in these tumultuous days of trying to get noticed on social media, it's just kind of like, we hope what we've said is, impacted on you in some kind of way, like you could relate to it or made you laugh. Yes. Anyway,
keep the zeal up.
Thank you for watching and listening
to music. Also, we'd love to hear from you too. If you'd like to add some comments below or write to us personally, we're always here. And if you'd like to collaborate with us, there's also something to do.
Get in touch. Right.
And take care.
We'll speak soon.
See ya.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, love.
Bye.